Hello again, it's GreenalinkSDA for the third and final time. I'm going to be running Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, and thankfully I am not on my own. I've got a co-commentator with me, Tempest, who just did Mega Man for the Game Gear.
Indeed I did, and it was quite a time, but let me assure you that Gunvolt is going to be even more of a time. This is actually a little bit close. Do you think you could push up a little, maybe?
Oh.
If not, that's fine. Okay, that's cool. Silly camera shenanigans. That's okay.
Oh, okay,
I think we'll be fine. Okay, so yeah, this is Gunvolt 3, and this category actually means a little bit to me because I'm actually the one that suggested it when we were at first trying to figure out the leaderboard entirely. So in a way, I'm personally glad that ESA accepted this one, and we hope you all enjoy this one. GreenalinkSDA, take it away.
Yeah, sure. This was a accepted run from a backup due to dropouts that occurred a few months ago.
Oh. Wait. Time should have started, but no. Right.
No, do it now. Just
3, 2, 1, go.
And then go. Do it now. Do it like that. So make it feel authentic.
Okay.
It probably takes 4 seconds to skip anyways.
I'm sure Benha will understand.
Benha, don't do a drinking game based on my mistakes in this game. It'll be a very, very bad idea.
Oh, yeah. All right, so this is Gunvolt 3, and for those that are familiar with the Gunvolt series, basically it's a Mega Man Zero ZX inspired time because the developer is Inti Creates, who did make those games in particular. So if you're looking at a very familiar art style, if you feel like this is very similar, well, that's why. A lot of people from the staff are back at it, and this is the third main installment of the game, which did take quite a while to complete. We have had a couple of side games in Luminous Avenger X1 and 2 since, so a lot of things have come and gone since then. The general gist of Kirin here is that she is a sword-type character, so she's basically Zero in a way, but one staple thing of the Gunvolt franchise is you have a means to tag enemies to deal more damage, and through Kirin, it's Talisman, which there's a gauge in the lower left corner, and that'll determine if she's locked onto something or if, just how many she has in general. If it's purple, it means that an enemy is locked on. Obviously, you can do it more than one time, and when their health bar is entirely full, you can actually walk through them, but we're not going to really worry about that much here. We just got a slash. Now, if you're a little more familiar with, say, playing on the face button to use your sword, it's actually the shoulder button by default, so this can get a little taking used to. Luckily, the game does let you configure your controls, but yeah, overall, this is the intro stage, and you don't really see this in what I think are the more popular categories, Trial Mode and Denizer, because this is a particularly Kirin-only stage. Like, Kirin only very much applies to here, and, well, here's why. That's Gunvolt. He's a dragon. And why, you might ask? Well, I'll explain soon, but generally this boss is very simple. Just target the head, try to strike him down as much as you can. He's going to use a lightning breath attack. He'll try to generate lightning from the horns. There'll be the crash bolts coming down from the ceiling. It's just overall a simple time, really. Now, keep in mind that Kirin does not have a special attack, which is also another staple within the Gunvolt games, but after this level, she's going to have that, and a little something that'll be our main speed method. So with that, we got the first stage clear, and yeah, it's the main game. We got to skip a bit of story, though, so allow me to abbreviate it for you all. So it's been an undisclosed amount of years, and I mean many, many years since the events of Gunvolt 2. For some reason, and unfortunately in the time after Gunvolt 2, GV himself unfortunately started to become super powerful. Way too powerful that it became out of control, and he became what's known as a Primal Dragon Adept. So Adepts in this universe are basically like mutants from X-Men. They control what's called Septima, which is basically the fuel for their power, and so on and so forth. And the Sumeragi group, which was our villainous faction, is actually the company we're working for this time. So they've kind of mellowed out. They still have a bit of sketchy shenanigans, but overall, we're actually trying to help them with this new Primal Dragon problem because GV's electricity has been powering the nation of Japan for so long. He willingly surrendered himself to there, and yeah, now things are going awry. Basically that. Okay, so within this stage, first adept stage, this is BB's level, and it's Christmas, so anybody want to get any holiday emotes going, that's perfectly fine here. That said, we now have access to our main movement, the Arc Chain. So what GreenalinkSDA can do, using the power of Gunvolt alongside Kirin, is whenever he tags an enemy and presses the Arc Chain button, Kirin zips to them and just strikes them down just like that. Now, of course, this can also be served for scoring purposes, but the fact that it's instantaneous and leaves her also invulnerable until she gets from point A to point B is why we personally want to make this our main movement in general. Now, this is low Gunvolt usage because this next section does mandate his gameplay. So we're actually going to see Kirin swap on over him. So this is a bit of a new sort of mechanic because while we had 2 separate character campaigns in Gunvolt 2, GV3's team decided, let's take in a more of a X7, X8 Mega Man Extreme 2 approach with the character swap. And so Gunvolt is normally swappable whenever the fetters gauge, that being the longer gauge below the health bar, is at least at 100%. And so whenever Kirin beats more enemies, that's more fetters. GV can also gain those by doing different sorts of combos and enemies and all that stuff, and he is absolutely busted because Inti figured the best way to make him seem fun was to give him some of Copen's actions, meaning that he can dash into enemies to lock onto them, he can do all sorts of floats and stuff. His flash field is basically like Copen's gun shot, and there, all good. So GV also has the Lightning Assault, which is his version of the Arc Chain, but it is a little bit slower, so that's why we do prefer Kirin, and now that he's gone, we're not going to use him for the rest of the game. That said, he will still show up for our little special attack, so at least he has some purpose there. Anyway, this is BB. So one thing I love about Inti Creates and the Gunvolt bosses is that they always take a bit of a themology within the characters' designs and names, and BB's name is actually Black Badge, which is a car name. And then we also have the arcane theme, so the tarot cards, which BB being a Grim Reaper is obviously Death 13. Anyway, you saw him get hit by a Reaper Ghost. If he got hit 3 more times, that would have locked him into an instant death attack he could not avoid. So that would have been pretty bad. But this boss is pretty simple overall. Kirin does have the ability to reflect projectiles with her blade, so it is possible to just stand still and take that more defensive approach if need be, but BB is definitely being a bit hard to get right now. So let's see how this all plays out. One thing that's about to happen is we're about to use our special attacks, but then he will too. The good thing about Gunvolt 3 is that Inti decided to make bosses vulnerable before and during their special attacks, so we're going to try and see if we can finish this off before Death Procession activates. It doesn't look like it though. Oh, so close. Oh well. One of the nice things though is that, as you can see right there, we got a little animated cutscene. The sort of tie-ins to the special attacks are another staple within Gunvolt games, but as of Luminous Avenger X2, Inti decided to make them a little more animated, and Gunvolt 3 clearly takes a little bit of that with it too, while also having the traditional design behind it. Anyway, that's Jin. We do not want to see her as much as possible. There are only 2 mandatory opportunities, or not opportunities, 2 scripted events where we will see her show up, and this is one of them. This is to prove that bosses can reanimate, which also applies to us too. There's a mechanic called the Anthem, which if Kirin dies, there's a chance that Lumen, our little cyber diva that shows up right behind us when the J-pop plays, can revive us, and normally that would involve the character that you're playing as, but in this case, it would be Gunvolt. So if that does happen to GreenalinkSDA, he will restart from the latest checkpoint that he hit. Which, by the way, retry markers are a little different than how it used to be. In previous games, they would be optional to hit, meaning you could jump over them. And part of the reason players might do this is because we got the kudos counter, which is that number gauge right below the health bar. What that normally does is you try to get more and more points and then clock it into points eventually. Checkpoint markers do not do that here. It just keeps building up, and if you do take damage, you will lose some. It will go into a negative number, but then you can do more damage and get right back out of the hole. So overall, we don't need to really worry about that, except for the fact that, yes, it is technically tied to the Jin's appearance. So you're going to see GreenalinkSDA do quite a bit of resetting because of that, because the lowest possibility of Jin appearing is at least around 3,000 kudos. So overall, yeah, we do not want to see her resurrect any bosses, and we're definitely not going to take any chances. So what you just saw GreenalinkSDA do in the pause menu was equip what's called an image pulse, which is basically an active skill, but they also act as passive skills or equipment in this game. Because in previous Gunvolt games there was synthing, then that was what the shop was kind of for, but instead they decided to take more of a sort of anniversary-esque approach, because there are a lot of characters, both old and new, that appear in here pertaining to the main Gunvolt franchise. So not necessarily based on the X games, which makes sense, but yeah. What we equipped was BB, and we always get that one, and what he does is whenever he's going to press up on the right stick, BB's going to drop us a bunch of presents, which can be health recovery or credits. Credits are only used to purchase upgrades for your skills if they can level up. Not all of them can. Some of them have just a singular maximum level, and even then it's not really going to come into play here because the problem with image pulses is that there's a bit of a gacha system behind them. So normally if you're trying to get image pulses, you have to collect those diamond little things throughout stages called the chips. And when you get 2, for each pair you get, that's like 1 try within the gacha. But of course, that does mean RNG, very unreliable, so we do try to skip them for the most part. However, you will see GreenalinkSDA try to get some within the later portion of the game, for reasons I will explain by then. For now, we're going to tune it back to Kirin's stage. So he's holed up in an arcade, Cyber Naloon, which is actually, according to former series localizer, former Inti Creates localizer captain Matt Papa, based on an old Japanese arcade that sadly closed down because of pandemic times, and it's just a testament to just the fun in arcades and just the whole idea behind the joy behind them. It just reflects so well within this level. Of course, there are security cameras, and so we do have to avoid them as best as we possibly can because, of course, that aggroes enemies and traps, and that's just never fun. And the shutter doors too, which I forgot to explain, but you know what? We got through them just fine. All right, here's Kirin, and that's a Magician Arcana theme for those playing the naming game. So Kirin's attacks are actually going to be more of setting up different types of trap-based attacks, projectiles, lasers, and other sorts of stuff. So despite the fact that it's technically sort of a siren/merman appearance, the theme actually fools you. I originally thought this was going to be a water boss back then, but yeah, no, not necessarily. Although I guess those could count as bubbles. Probably. All right, but yeah, so we're going to just try and lower his health down as much as we can, and then we're going to see his attack, Brilliant Raid, which will create a couple of laser sort of cages around the field. I do want to mention that despite the fact that certain special attacks look very unavoidable, they actually are. Inti Creates always accounts for one way out in some way, shape, or form. And for most of these bosses, that's going to be the arc chain from Kirin, because again, you tag an enemy, you zip to them, and then just like there, she's in a flash, and there you go.
So I say something? This one will have a donation bid war to determine the ending for the final boss, whether or not I'm going to kill him or save him.
That's right, so definitely get your donations in if you want to influence that. But yeah. Sorry, obviously I gotta hydrate here, just like I was doing before.
Right now it's very 50-50 at the moment, with one option in the lead with $62 and the other one at 48.
Right. So now we're moving into Cayman's level. And I want to mention that for every Atem stage we defeat, Kirin's actually going to gain a skill. This is similar to how Copen in his Gunvolt games could gain the boss's abilities, but in this, it's more so a callback to EX skills from the Mega Man Zero games, in which Kirin just gets a different ability that pertains to her current move set. So in the case of BB, we actually got a charged talisman, which does allow you to seal more of an enemy's health, but the charge time is sadly a little unreliable, so you're only really going to see him use it sparingly whenever it just makes sense. In the case of Kirin, well, I'll get to that in a little later, but right now let's just talk about what Cayman will give us, and that's going to be an upper slash, so sort of like an uppercut, and it's actually going to be a pretty helpful skill once we get the upgraded version come the second group of bosses. That said, this stage is very vertical, and you'll notice those purple chain lamps. So the yellow lamps, we just chain to them just as a way to get up and stuff, but the purple lamps, they just send us flying vertically, and the best way to get a really good time for the stage is just to keep those in mind, and overall, that sort of jazz. Now, normally when you arc chain, Kirin does have a bit of a slowdown after the initial zip. GreenalinkSDA is actually using a bit of a technique to sort of cancel that out. There are different ways to do it, but do so cautiously because it can put a bit of strain on your hands. It's a matter of how you sort of mash the buttons and cancel it out either with your sword or through some other means. But yeah, we've now entered the alarm room. This is another Gunvolt tradition where we suddenly enter a place that has a siren going off and enemies spawning and a little counter that shows how many enemies are left. However, we can just destroy the alarm or the siren and we get to move through, no problem. However, that's the only time we get to see a traditional alarm room in this particular game. as apparently they decided to turn the rest of the technically alarm rooms on top of their heads. And, well, yeah, that'll be in Group 2, but yeah. So as you're noticing, once GreenaLink reaches a certain amount of kudos, that's when Lumen shows up and that's when the J-pop starts playing. Gunvolt has a lot of thought put into the music as part of the earliest parts of game development. And honestly, you could probably bet that Inti is, even if the game itself wasn't that good, you better believe that Inti is probably getting a lot of fans from the music in itself. Like, these vocal tracks are really cool. Shout out to Megu Sakagawa, the singer of Lumen, and also the voice actress as well, and also a shout out to her dub VA, Diana Garnett, as well. With that in mind, we have entered the Cayman boss fight. Now, he might look like a fire-type boss, but he's actually more of a fighting-type Pokemon. So he's actually going to do stuff like close-range attacks. He's just sealed up the walls. You can wall jump if that wasn't obvious in this game, but now, when the X's are applied to those walls, we can't do that anymore. So, yeah, he's just going to try and knock us back, and then we're going to see if we can prevent him from using his special move, which, if it doesn't happen, that's okay. It's actually one of my favorites due to being very, very unique, but let's see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, this one's a hard one to do.
Right. He did get it in practice, though. I know for a fact.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Oh, yeah. So close. So what he's going to do now is he's going to use the Duel's Dimension to create this little field, this little area, and whenever we step outside of it, we're going to gradually lose health, but yeah, not even going to come into effect here. Still, I got to admit, that is probably one of the most unique special attacks I've seen, and personally one of my top favorites throughout the entire series. It's just so cool. But yeah, I did mention dub voice acting, by the way. For those that don't know, Gunvolt is a series that for the longest time did not have English voice acting. It was mostly Japanese voiced. But come Luminous Avenger X2 in 2022, you know, last year, early that year, that was the first game to ever do so. And of course, with Gunvolt 3 coming out later that year, they carried it over. And if you check out the English dub, you're going to probably find a lot of familiar voices, and perhaps even ones you haven't heard of that honestly did a great job. In fact, let me surprise some of you right now. BB is voiced by Ryan Cole Levy, who is Denji in Chainsaw Man's dub. So it's amazing to see where he went from here to there and all that jazz. But anyway, here's Apollo's stage. So this is sort of a water level. In previous Gunvolt games, GV can't stay in water for too long because he'll eventually drown. However, in this case, oh, by the way, that's my favorite song right there. That's my favorite vocal track. GV can't stay in water because he'll eventually drown, excuse me. And then if you try to use his electric powers in there, it will also short circuit, causing him to instantly overheat. Ooh. But then the good thing, in this game, the water will not affect that because apparently he's just grown that strong in this case. But falling down a pit, that's also changed in Gunvolt 3 here because normally that would instant kill you and not even the Anthem can save you. But here, it just deals damage, and then you're going back to the nearest platform the game deems possible. All right, so that's the mini-boss, by the way, and it's not a Gunvolt game without some sort of a tank fight. I think this is probably their qualification right there. It's kind of funny, though, because in early game material, there was supposed to be an upgraded version of Gunvolt 2's Plasma Legion that never quite made the full transition to the final product, so rest in peace on that one, but still, just a little fun fact for y'all. And yeah, if it wasn't obvious, I have actually taken quite a bit of time to invest myself with lore and facts. Inti Creates is one of my personal favorite devs, and it's not hard to see why. Alright, so this is section 2. By the way, whenever GreenaLink breaks those things, those are called hexapiles, little gates that conveniently bring us from one section to another, so to speak. It's yeah, they're all Gunvolt design is pretty consistent throughout, and then some. So now we've got those crates. He can lock onto them and then zip to them, but then it'll also destroy them. They do, however, recreate, but then you can also stand on them and the little purple neon track will tell you which direction it goes, but then when it hits the shadowy area, it will eventually disappear. Now, with that said, I believe that it's... Okay, we don't have anything to read, that's okay. But I will mention that if you guys do want to donate to the bid war, be sure to go to the link in the chat. And assuming it is not set to stream 2, you will want to do that because the bid in itself will be there. So, you know, just not to confuse it with stream 1. That said, we're now moving on to the Apollo boss fight. Now, his power is going to be vectors, where he's going to, or at least gravity, actually. Gravity, right. Basically, he can tag things too, and basically just alter them like so. He's also kind of a jester. You'll see why in a sec. Actually, there it was right there. I sometimes like to think that they might have taken a bit of inspiration from Clown Man from Mega Man 8, but possibly unlikely. Anyhow, this boss fight is pretty simple. Again, we just got to tag him as much as we can. Zip, zip, zip. Try to use the special attack when he's very low on health. And then, yeah. So once we defeat him, we will be going to the mid stage because, as per tradition, there is a mid-game level that then takes us on to the next group of bosses, and so on and so forth. So the reason we usually go in this order, GreenalinkSDA, if you'd like to explain that.
The reason why I did Cayman third, so I can unlock the grounded sword uppercut for this fight.
Which is very helpful, as you can see, because he does like to very much swing around in depth. Dang, I was not expecting him to do that instantly right there. Oh well.
There you go.
I still got him.
Still be, I think it's a tough one to DM skip because he kind of does it immediately. He doesn't jump to one position to another to use it. He just
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, how y'all enjoying this run so far?
That's more like it.
Heck yeah.
All right, here comes the mid stage because this is like a Mega Man game. Think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, y'all. You know how Mega Man 02 had airships? We had to go from airship to airship to defuse a bomb. Well, now we're just going to jump on from missile to missile. Don't believe me? Watch. There it is. I swear, when I first saw this, my mouth was wide open, and I was just like, wow, this is something else. And this is easily where vertical movement can really, really, really come to play, especially with proper arc chain usage. So the general gist is we go from left to right, we jump into the little gap into the missile, and then we gotta destroy the core in order to then move on. Once all the missile cores are donezo, we will eventually move on to the next portion of the stage. As you can see right there, GreenalinkSDA tagged an enemy in advance so that he could then arc chain right out of there without having to worry about wall jumping, which is very, again, arc chain and tagging, very, very important for this sort of game. It's just needs to be said. Now, I will say that Gunvolt's gameplay is, if you're familiar with playing Gunvolt in previous games, yeah, he uses a weapon that tags enemies. His shots tag enemies normally, and you can then zap him with his electricity here and all that stuff. And he actually does have a few special attacks, which also reflects here, depending on when you switch onto him, depending on how high the Fedder's gauge is. But enough of that. We're moving on to Zed Omega, or just simply Zed. He's kind of like Gunvolt. He's actually an equivalent to Gunvolt. He's described that way anyhow. And he's a very strong adept and uses the power of nuclear fusion. So he basically has the power of the sun. And he's also got what's called Prevasion, or an equivalent of it, where it's another Gunvolt staple in which GV can shave off damage, but instead loses some of his energy as a result of it. And Kirin can do that too, because we did get that Image Pulse passive after the intro stage. The reason we don't equip it is because it's very costly. It causes her to lose 4 talisman, and she won't get them back until she does a manual double tap down reload. But otherwise, we just needed to tag Zed, strike him, and keep damaging him, and that's basically the fight. We will be seeing him again. There's a bit of a... It's not uncommon for a important Gunvolt character, antagonistic figure, to appear as a mid-boss, and then we get to fight them again. It is what it is. But that said, Zed himself is actually now playable. So GreenalinkSDA is playing on Steam version 1.2.1. And which I believe is the is that the most up-to-date version?
No, that's the first Steam release version, so it doesn't have the 2.0 Zen playable build.
Right. So there's been a lot of free content updates since. Of course, the reason GreenalinkSDA is doing this is because sometimes, in case things get patched out in transition from one patch to another, this way there's still something preserved. But otherwise, yeah, within each major update, a new sort of mode has been added in, such as the aforementioned trial mode and denizer mode, and then the epilogue attempts, which you can unlock after getting this game's true ending. Which, by the way, reminder, if you want to see that happen, let's see someone tip that into the donation bid war. But other than that, we're going into a mid boss. Y'all like worms? That's a worm. We're gonna strike it. I love the animation, by the way. Kirin's special skill is this singular screen hitting move, yes, and so too does Copen have one of those. So GV is normally, that's not good. That's unfortunate too.
Major bummer.
Yeah. But yeah, in any kind of playable appearance that Copen has in a game, his major special attack is a screen clearing move, and so that's obviously the case with Kirin here. By the way, when you do play as GV, he can air dash, he can air hop, and he can do so an infinite amount of times while he's in there. So like I said, he is just way too busted. So much so that honestly, the reason we figured this category made sense for leaderboard is simply for those that enjoy the thrill of Kirin's gameplay alone and simply want to keep to the basics that way. But let me tell you, it also allows the boss fights to shine. And I have seen and commentated for the any percent stuff, and let me tell you, GV really makes those bosses like makes short work out of them.
Why did not? She didn't dash.
That's, yeah. I don't think you were standing on something. That might have been it. Okay, well, no problem. Like I said, it only deals damage to us.
There you go. That's what I wanted. Like that.
There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, this is Grazzi's stage. We've now moved into Group 2 of the Adept bosses called the Atem Knights. And so the whole idea behind the mid-stage was to formally introduce us to them. So the Jin that we saw earlier is actually working for Zed. He's the leader of Atems, a corporation from another country, and is basically very distrustful of Sumeragi, that they feel that even with the good deeds we are doing under the Dragon Saviors Bureau, it's he feels that the world is in trouble, and so he's basically it's basically one of those, I'm trying to help the world, but I can't let you interfere with this, so to speak. And so the Knights, his right-hand cronies, basically. That's who we're fighting right now. And Grazzi here actually is special because she's got two forms. The first we're going to see the transformation is going to be after the first bar of health goes down, which, in case you haven't noticed, every time a boss loses a bar of health, that's when the iframes come into play. Sometimes it's possible to sort of bypass those, do a little more damage beyond that, which is obviously what we're trying to do with the talismans in general. But yeah, here comes Sandstorm Emperor, and a little fun fact, if you can change voice acting between English and Japanese, as well as the dialogue between English and Japanese, and the results will change. You can hear English voices saying the super attack names in the English script, or in the Japanese script, and then vice versa. And let me tell you, whenever she says Sandstorm Emperor in the Japanese script, it's called VARF Coordinator, HVARF. And I'm just like, that is probably one of the funniest things I have ever heard in my life. But yeah, here comes Dune Demon Disaster. I gotta admit, the special attack names are very charming no matter which way you read them. By the way, another design choice in this game, both boss groups have different intros, well, obviously intros. They have different transformations and defeat animations, which is really cool. Particularly, if you do go through the dialogue before the fight, you will see the Atem Knights actually transform, whereas the Berserk Adepts, who we've now recruited to our team, the Dragon Saviors, you don't see them transform. But yeah. Just small details like that, really. Anyhow, we're now moving on to Prado's level, and this is where we're going to get a really special skill. So we mentioned how the ground uppercut is useful. It's going to be even more useful because after this, we're going to be able to do it in midair. So here it goes. We're actually back within the same locale as with an Apollo stage. So yeah, fancy that, and it's not looking too well. The whole story beat is that Zed and the Knights are looking for the Binding Brands, which coincidentally are what they are using to transform into their adept states as well. So not only do they serve as a means for the plot, but it's also cleverly used as to how we're fighting them in their powered-up states, which is really cool. But the theme of the stage is both ice and fire, because Prado is a special adept in being able to use not one, but two elements. And so anytime we see the ice, physics are going to be a little slippery, as per usual. And then when we see the fire, we simply just want to try to not take too much damage from it, that's all. Okay, so now we're moving to the next Texapile. And yeah, so fellas, do you prefer hot or cold? Sounds like a mixed reaction to me. One thing I did forget to mention was that we do have experience points in the game. So every time you see the level up, that means we've got enough to, well, level up. And what this does is it completely that can happen sometimes. It completely heals Kirin's HP, and it also, at certain levels, will give her extra passive skill slots. Not necessary for the run, obviously, but still something to be said. Also, it does make her health bar grow more and more. So, small increments, but basically with each level up, we're not just getting a full heal, but we're also getting more stamina in general, which is always nice.
I want to get that done as clean as possible, that bit. Don't want to mess it up badly. It's all good.
Yeah, that does happen. Trust me, I'm no stranger to messing up myself. All right, so coming up to Prado's fight. So, probably one of my personal favorite added bosses of the game. How she works is that depending on what direction she's facing will determine what types of attacks she uses. If she's facing to the right, it's going to be fire. If she's facing to the... Actually, no, if she's facing to the... Technically to the left, my bad. The sprite fooled me for a second there. But yeah, if she's facing one direction, she uses fire. If she's facing the other, she uses ice. So we can technically sort of manipulate what she's going to do in that regard. Other than that, though, not too much else particular about the fight. Her special attack is going to be Waltz of Twin Elements, and that's just going to cover most of the field within ice and fire projectiles. If we can skip it, that's good. If not, we're just going to try and continue to arc chain to her and deal as much damage. Yeah,
I'm going to get the health first, just in case.
No worries. Yeah, just remember that, again, if he dies and we do get resurrected, we still have to retry. So that's still, not playing it safe still could very well count as a death sentence, for sure. All right, so that's 2 Atem Knights down. We're almost donezo with this group, and then it'll be on to the final stages. By the way, I do want to mention that if you are interested in picking up this game, it is available on Nintendo Switch, Xbox One and Series XS, Steam, and then most recently, PlayStation 4. It's funny because the release order of the platforms did start off with Switch, Xbox a week after, Steam sometime in October, and then in December, finally came the PlayStation version, which is probably one of the funniest release orders I've ever seen in an Inti Creates game. Some of you may know that not all Japanese devs keep the Xbox in mind, but considering that Inti Creates had technically kept that in mind for the Blaster Master Zero games, which they also worked on alongside Sunsoft, then yeah, they figured maybe it was high time to throw the Xbox in there as well, which is the version I happen to have. So, thank you on that, Inti. Anyhow, here's I almost said Serpentine. I know, it's a shame. They have S names. Serpentine is the assassin of the Atem's group, and there's an emphasis on stealth. Metal Gear? Metal Gear. 2.D? Sure, why not? Snake's Revenge, we'll call it. That's an actual NES game, by the way. Anyway, so arc chaining the sensors, the mines, and trying to get away from enemies can seem a bit daunting, but it is absolutely possible. It's just a matter of taking chances, and if something goes wrong, you can always just try to work around it. This game may reward you for going fast, but no shame in taking backup maneuvers if you need to. So now moving on to the second half of the stage, this is going to be the first instance of the return of the alarm room coming soon. In this case, there will be enemies that we have to defeat, but there will be no alarm. So GreenalinkSDA will have to take care of all of them, and it should be right now. Luckily, they do create an arc chain lamp for us to go up, though, just in case. So, hey, pay attention to the lower right-hand counter, and those enemies are as good as gone. But yeah, I'm just going to let him focus while I just hydrate really quick. one more time.
There you go.
Nice. I'm actually going to put this right next to me, because what the heck was I thinking otherwise? I swear in my mind. Okay. So. Yeah.
Compton.
Close. Yeah. Bit of a shame, but you know, not much you can do sometimes. Like, if it just happens. Not really much else I can say about the stage. But yeah, if you all, like, again, big shout out to Inti Creates. This game had yet to come out for the longest while, and so many people were waiting. And yeah, everyone agrees that there's some really great gameplay behind here. Whether you're in it for score attacking, whether you're in it for speed, the game has a place for both. After all, it does clock your best score and best speed separately. So if you ever want to break a record, don't be afraid to give it a shot. It's totally there for you. And yeah, there's the different ranking systems too. Like there's the S Plus rank, which used to be the highest one you could get within previous games. But then they also added an S++, as well as an Azure Striker rank, which in that case, that's something you can only really do with help from a passive image pulse that you unlock by getting the true ending for the first time. But it allows you to start as Gunvolt, and the idea for that rank is you play through an entire stage as Gunvolt from beginning to end. It can be really hard, but very rewarding. Anyway, here's the Serpentine fight, and this one has a very troublesome special attack, so we want to see that avoided at all costs, because if she does use it, she's completely invulnerable until it's over. So she's using the illusion, or these ghosts of our friends, making it seem like they're turning against us, but in fact, they are not the real deal. And if their powers can still very much hurt us.
This is not good.
Ooh, let's see it.
Let's see, it might be able to pull it off. Let's just see.
Maybe. Let's hope.
This is going to be very tight. This is going to be very, very tight.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go!
Cool. That'll be a big time loss if she managed to pull it off, and she didn't. Thank goodness. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, unfortunately, that did happen during the practice run, but hey, we more than made up for that, so let's go.
Ooh. Okay, one more level left. Not as stressful as this one, mind you. Sistina.
So, if you're familiar with factory levels, this is kind of what we're going for here. And in a little nod to Flame Man from Mega Man 6, there will be these gas areas which, when made in contact with fire attacks, will ignite. So it's not oil, but it's a similar vibe going all the same. So yeah, arc chaining, important, but also just getting through the level. There's quite enough close spaces here too, so it might seem a bit clogged to get around, so it's kind of like a horizontal vertical mix, a little bit of both going on, so to speak. But the nice thing about this stage is that, as you just saw right there, going up and above can be, you know, just the easier, more convenient way of getting around all in all. So hey, there you go there. GreenalinkSDA can just climb up or use the aerial slash, which is definitely one of the reasons why we got it. And yeah, also the downwards air slash, if y'all are enjoying that one, I'm pretty sure we got that from Kirin, right? Yeah, Kirin.
Yeah, there's an upgraded one I've got as well recently, but that allows me to fall down much faster.
Absolutely, and well, it's very helpful for drops like those, very much so. So, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like there's a whole weakness system, stage choice can still very much matter in the run entirely. Technically, there is a bit of a weakness system, though, and that mainly applies to image pulse attacks, although it can be a little hard to figure out and a little bit of trial and error as well. So again, not really worth our concern, but hey, it's nice to see that Inti still decided to keep it in, because that was something that Copen's gameplay could take advantage of. After all, he gained their weapons. He was very much the Mega Man equivalent to the series, so you know. Anyway, now we go on to our second phase. And by the way, that was technically an alarm room. We did have to destroy like all those enemies without the help of having a counter or just an alarm to smash, but he did just fine. And so no problem here, no problem there. We got some more fire to avoid, of course. It's a good thing that's not instant kill, because unlike Flame Man, that was certainly, like in Flame Man's case, that was exactly it. If the oil ignited, you were dead if you touched it. But yeah, thank goodness for not here. It is If you're thinking this game might be a little easy though, well, let me tell you, getting that true ending will unlock a hard difficulty and a very hard difficulty. So if you wish to challenge yourself that way, if you feel like dealing damage to the bosses is way too easy, then the harder difficulties just might be for you. I can definitely say so myself, having gone through the hard one entirely. And Merciless, I don't think I'm ready for that one yet, not at all. All right, so now we're moving on to Sistina's fight. Now, I like to compare this one as a sort of a tribute to Queen Bee from Mega Man ZX Advent, in that it's a bee theme. She's got the similar color theme and the wings going on. But instead of lugging a huge minion summoning hive, her added power is based on bullets. And so the blue bullets that home in on you can be sliced, but they will release these pink bullets that then continue to home in on you, and those can be a little annoying. I'm just going to say right now, her special attack name is a little bit silly.
If she does pull it off.
If she does pull it off. Just a fair warning for you folks. Here we go.
There you go.
Oh, nice. I thought she was like a frame away from using it. I don't know.
You have to go up a bit before she can pull it off, thank goodness. Okay, that's phase 2 done. Phase 3 will be the Sunrise Palace.
Which, by the way, is probably my favorite fortress of the Gunvolt franchise. It utilizes the Utu Media Tower, which was Yota's stage from Gunvolt 1, and covers it with sand using Grati's power to make it this Arabian-themed area. Which, by the way, the song's a banger. You're about to see me react accordingly, in fact. So, yeah, get ready for the
Try my best here. This one does have a few pits. I may have a brain fart moment and actually fall into one, so...
I'll give him a little bit of serious time for this one, while I do my thing.
The actions speak louder than words, I say. Woohoo! Let's go. Do cautious ones like this one now, rather than instant cancels.
Right.
Oh yeah, might as well go and try and get the RNG drop for this. This is the level you're on about.
Right. So, image pulses. I did mention the gacha. There is one particular image pulse we are looking for here, and that's going to be a character called Romeo, who is also appropriately known as the creepy Electro Whip guy from Gunvolt 1's level. He's a bit of a fan-favorite character, and he literally appears in the intro cutscene, and that's about it. But yeah, he's well-received by the fans, so much so that Inti decided to throw him in here and ironically made him one of the most powerful active image pulses you can have in the game. What he does is he launches a statue of himself, which is an Easter egg from X1, and just randomly drops in a location, but the amount of damage it can do to a boss is ungodly. So if we do manage to get that, that's going to be interesting, because I don't believe GreenalinkSDA has ever had a run where he's gotten it.
Or even used it properly, so this is going to be a comedy run, right? Whoopsie daisies.
He's still got a very respectable time, even with that in mind. But yeah, now apparently Romeo can save you quite a bit of time, potentially. So it'll be really cool if we get him. If not, it's not the end of the world, I assure you. Okay, so like I said, with each pair of image chips we collect, that will be an extra try on the gacha. Technically, you're seeing an odd number of them right there, but when you get all of them, the game gives you an extra piece. And as also another bonus try if you beat a boss when it gets resurrected.
Get this one?
Yep. Go for it.
Okay, got 2 chances.
So we'll see how this works. There
and
could...
I need to learn how to use it as well if I do get it.
Well, there's also a possibility that we could get a just as helpful image pulse, but we'll see what it is. It's all dependent on whether it's passive, active. The game decides for us, and there's not much else to it. So here we got the Prado fight once again. We have entered the boss refights, and Inti usually spreads them out within stages, or just spreads them out in a linear, non-linear way, so to speak. Like, it's not like there's a boss room where you normally choose which ones to refight. Then again, actually, that was Gunvolt 2. What am I saying? I get my information mixed up here and there. But, yeah, Prado, again, depending on which direction she's facing will determine what attack she's using between ice and fire. And yeah, we're probably going to see the Waltz of Twin Elements again. We'll see how much we can manage through that, though. A lot of people love BB for the Merry Christmas thing. It's just one of the fun things about him. His personality, too. Like, I highly implore anyone interested in the Gunvolt games to consider trying them casually just to get to see the characters and how they interact. Some are not around long enough, but I feel like the dialogue these bosses do give off also give great impressions of who they are as well. I feel the writing of this game, though, can also be a bit very anime. And you can pretty much put that one on series main writer Toshiaki Tai, who's also known to like a very challenging game, by the way. But, like, he's just really...
No, Romeo. That's okay.
Ah, dang it.
Now I've got an excuse why I won't beat the world record run, but that's fine.
Oh, good.
No pressure now. Besides, you get more gameplay of Kirin just slashing pieces, really.
Absolutely.
But I'll notice a donation difference. It's like literally 80 cents difference.
Wow, really? Okay. We'll have to see if that changes. Remember, folks, ! donate, or you can find links below. And it's all, no matter how big or small, it's going to a great cause. Trust me, Alzheimer Foundation is very much worth any sort of donation, in my honest opinion. And with that, here's another level up. We got a full heal as we climb. More of those mines from Gotzi's level, which you can probably assume what that means, but that's actually not true. Instead,
this is a luck-based fight here. I want Yota to come into screen as soon as I can. Yeah, like that.
Nice.
Because I need to do this to hit both at the same time.
So yeah, hi Yota, bye Yota, hi Viper, bye Viper. This is the first of 2 in-level returning fan favorite bosses from the previous 2 main Gunvolt entries. In this case, Gunvolt 1, and then coming up soon will be the Gunvolt 2 representatives. Integrates very much understood how much fans love these returning bosses, though, and with later updates, they added even more. Here, which sort of falls around a Rondo of Blood Castlevania type secret, where if you fall down a pit, instead it'll take you to the fight, supposedly. Which, yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. Can be a little cryptic, though. In fact, I don't think I've found the pit to this day. But it's, but here we have the Gunvolt 2 representatives, Tenjian and Zonda. A shame because considering the characters consider themselves non-blood related siblings, it was always interesting to see how they might work together. And the fight choreography here very much shows what was a missed opportunity in Gunvolt 2, but done justice for sure. And unfortunately, these bosses just crumble to Divine Ruin Heresy like that. So, like I said, if you feel like you want to see these things without accidentally killing them, that's where the harder difficulties come into play, so at least that's good on that. Right now, though, more climbing, and he did reset in order to not just manipulate the kudos, but also bring back his special attack as well. Otherwise, that would recharge over time. And given the pace that he's moving at, that just would have been super inefficient. So, yeah. Oh, let's, I'll let him focus here for this one.
Hey there.
Okay, that's not too bad, yeah.
Yeah. Vertical climbs are not, I don't really mastered all off by heart, because mostly, it's most of the time you're going horizontally, vertically not so much.
Alright, so, as you could probably imagine, because those bosses were not exactly the real deal, who else but a Serpentine as the boss within this stage? So once again, we need to make sure we deal enough damage to her, and then also weaken her enough, but also put her at a good point where we can avoid seeing Mandala. I forget the name already, and I that's fine because we don't want to see it anyhow.
Mystic Mandala?
Mystic Mandala, thank you. Like, as I said before, certain super attacks do change depending on if you're viewing the English text script or the Japanese text script. And that also applies to some of the character names as well, or at least in the case of them being referenced by the voice acting. Like, Apollo's name in the Japanese script is actually Lexus, which still follows the car theme, which is what the first group of adepts all follow, and is also a callback to Gunvolt 1's bosses. But yeah, it's really interesting. Can also be a bit silly because, you know, nothing wrong with consistency, but I imagine director Suda did this just to avoid some potential copyrights and, you know, not much else to say there. All right, here we go.
There you go. I played that
Let's
one
go.
safe.
Very safe and very, very well done.
Because sometimes I may push a special button too early as she's about to warp and she will take no damage. And it makes me very sad. She will get away
Very sad
afterwards.
indeed.
So I did really play that one a bit safe.
All right, so now we're going to be moving on to the last of the normal particular levels within this fortress thing. And by the way, don't mind me, I'm just checking the bid war as we go along myself. Let's go. I actually do want to give a shout out to Etienne, who was in the audience in my run. He's actually one of the Gunvolt runners as well. He's done this game. He's done Gunvolts 1 and 2. Very, very nice fella. Just a shout out overall to the entire Gunvolt community, for sure. All right, so just a couple more chances to hear this jammin' theme. Not much else to be said. Arc chaining, all that jazz. I've honestly run out of some things to say, so if I think of something, I'll let you all know. But I'll let him focus for this one.
Ooh. We're going to fight against Gratty very soon after this segment right here. Oops. There you go. After this checkpoint, I will retry to minimize the chances to absolute 0 to skip the possible phase 4. Here it goes.
And here we go. All right, so yeah, it's still looking pretty close, y'all. Remember, this bid war determines how we deal with the final boss. So if you feel like you want to see one strategy over the other, you are running out of time to donate for it. So, and remember, any donation is appreciated no matter how big or small. This is for a wonderful cause, and just to assure that this research will save the lives of so many people, both young and old. Truly, a cause that is pretty near and dear to me. All right, so.
Oh, close. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I mean, when shall we cut off the donation incentive? During the final part of the first final boss?
I'm going to say midway through. I'm going to say I'll keep an eye out for that. So yeah.
And keep on reminding me when the actual final boss happens, so I don't make the wrong choice.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, so Tech, do be ready to eventually close off the bid war for this. We're coming up to that soon. Not yet though.
Give it like another 6-ish or more minutes.
All right. Here we go. So now that we've oh wait, no, this is actually not. This is not supposed to be the end of the level. You'd think that, but nope. The game fooled you this time. We actually have one last refight. So they threw Grazi and Sistina together in this particular case. And so, yeah, we still got one last Atem Knights refight, but it is worth noting now that at no point are we going to reface the Berserk Adepts. The game spared us of that fate, and honestly, I would have imagined it where their excuse for doing so probably would have also been their excuse for killing them off. But that's the thing. In this Gunvolt game, no one really dies. That's probably one of the most rarest things you'd ever see, considering that Toshiaki Tai, despite being referred to as a very down-to-earth person, he has made a lot of characters suffer over the series. It's a meme in itself. But yeah. All right, back to Sistina. So second verse, same as the first. Strike her down. She shoots the blue magic bolts that home in on you. Slice them, they turn into the red ones. She can also shoot the red ones individually, as you just saw right there. And yeah, remember, if she does use that special attack of hers, it's going to be a very silly name, but just a fair warning to anybody watching.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this could be.
I might have time.
Okay. Shout out to the boss themes, by the way. I love the Gunvolt boss themes quite a bit.
Oh, I got it.
Yes! Good stuff. All right, all refights are done. Now we just got to face Zed himself, and then there will be one more stage after that. And Keeping in line with some of the more recent Gunvolt games, I know this sort of happened in X2 as well. The next stage is just going to be us making our way up to the boss fight, and the game's also going to literally hand us 3 image chips altogether, while also this being the second and last time we're going to see a mandatory resurrection within the game via the Jin. So obviously with the first adept we fought, that's going to be the mandatory resurrection, and then the last adept we fight is going to be the mandatory resurrection. But if you do take on BB's stage as like a second or repeated attempt, you won't see it anymore. It's just based on how many kudos you have going, so yeah. But then if you do here, you're always going to see it happen no matter what. So in case you missed the mid-stage fight, how it works is we do have to attack Zed in order to put down his Pervasion. Otherwise, any attacks we try to use against him will be nullified or phased through. And yeah, he's got the feathers, which he will home into. He's also got a few new tricks up his sleeve. It's all these different powers, like summoning a ballista to shoot different arrows. He's got this, he's got the Rexcalibur, which he just used right there to throw all these sun nuclear fusion swords at us. And there's the dash where he creates stuff along the floor. And let me tell you something, if he looks cool as a boss fight, just imagine being able to play as him, because that's exactly what Epilogue Atems lets you do. It is a short category, but it is a super fun one because his gameplay style combines the general skill of Kirin, but also takes in some of the bustedness from Gunvolt, and yet balances it in a way that I honestly thought easily could have been seen here, and yet, you know, better late than never. Really, probably my favorite playable character of the Gunvolt series now. Funny how that works. All right, so here's the last resurrection from the Jin, but we will hear her music one last time, so get your gems ready if you're enjoying this Arabian-themed bop. Okay,
this will be fun.
By the way, you're probably wondering who that creature thing is within the background. Yeah. So would I. It's actually Mobius, an individual that was brought up in Kirin's dialogue for her pre-fight in the Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X2 DLC, where those DLC packs, those paid DLC packs, gave you these extra boss fight stages, some of them being crossovers with other characters, and she was the last one. And she mentioned his name, and some people might have thought that was an allusion to an X3, but I just knew this was going to be Gunvolt 3. Whether for better or for worse, I'll let you be the judge. But right now, Mobius has this thing called an Octima, which is way further beyond a Septima, which means he can do things like basically bend the future to whatever he wills it. And yeah, he's not too happy right now from being woken up. So this is going to be phase 1 of the final boss fight. And again, we're going to cut off the bid war in just a bit, right after this first bar of health goes away, in fact. So get ready. And close the bid war. All right, so as we are going through the fight, you're noticing GreenalinkSDA tagging those orbs, and whenever he destroys all of them, that will leave Mobius open and ripe for the picking, but he's got all these wild bullet hell attacks going right at you. It's just, this is just a funky boss in general, and just a really cool thing in too. But now we've got a very daunting special attack, Damnatio Memore. I always slip up with that at least once. So
this one's going to be tough. I got to concentrate for this one, you'll see.
He's going to have more orbs to lock into, and he has to break all of them in order to make Mobius vulnerable. If he so much as screws up the fall, he will get hit by that beam, as it will spread all the way over to the side of the screen. All right, what's the winner of the bid war?
It looks like the winner, well, we
Save. All right.
All right.
We're saving. All right, cool. So now we're going to get the true ending. So we actually do split the leaderboard between the bad ending and the true ending. So it's a very minute difference, especially when considering that previous Gunvolt games and the main entries had a good ending and a bad ending. And in all fairness, though, the methods of getting those can seem a little bit convoluted. So something as simple a difference as what you're about to see here is very much welcome. But yeah, right now, what Greenalink is going to do is, instead of damaging him, he's going to completely try to steal Gunvolt's health. How? Well, first we gotta avoid this attack. Is your controller working right now?
Oh no, oh no.
I think we've got a bit of a problem here. Oh, no, he died. But wait! There we go. Now she's on our side. So Jin is going to resurrect us, and we're also going to get some of Zed's power, the Golden Trillion, to give us a bit of a boost that's going to now set our talismans to infinite. So now Greenalink is going to try and match them as possible, while also trying to avoid actually damaging Mobius once he pops out. The reason for this is if you do actual damage to Mobius once, then the game will consider you getting the bad ending. So we gotta make sure that we do not screw up in that way. All right, good so far. Time will be coming up once the health bar is completely sealed. So let's get right to it.
Use a special right now before Gunvolt shouts it out. He will not take the resistance. So I do it here, do a lot of damage. See that? If I do it later, he will take way less damage.
Which is very, very helpful to have. But now we've got what is probably one of the hardest attacks to dodge. The fact that Benha proved it to be possible without taking a single hit is a trial beyond words, particularly within the hardest difficulty. All right, get ready.
This is the final cycle, I say.
We're getting very close to that. And we hope you all have been enjoying this run. Again, very special thanks to ESA for accepting this backup run. I'm always very happy to show off some Gunvolt, and yeah, we hope
we're on time.
There you go.
Time!
Nicely done. There we go. All right.
Let you watch the ending just for those unfamiliar, because here's a trivia time. When she throws its final talisman, what happens right afterwards is different. If you play the earlier versions on Switch or Xbox back when it was first released, it wouldn't show this bit coming right up. This was added to Steam and later platforms, including Switch and Xbox via update. Give you a bit more clearer context on what's actually happening.
A lot of people consider this run to be one of the weirdest ones of the Gunvolt series, and I would still say so, but at the very least with this quality of life update, it did give a lot more context that was originally missing. So I think I can very much appreciate that. It didn't hit consoles for a while, but now it should. So, yeah. I love Gunvolt's Japanese voice actor, by the way. As much as I love his English voice actor, shout out to Sean Chiplock, by the way, who you would probably recognize as the voice of Rivali. He's such a huge Mega Man fan, and I know just how honored he felt to take up a role like this one, and he knocked it out of the park, so major props to him.
Shout out to the English dub to make the Story Plus mode more playable, because it actually made me listen to what they're saying instead of trying to read what was playing it.
Absolutely.
That's a big plus.
Alright, so as we are going through the rest of the ending, I guess I'll start by saying a few final things myself. I just want to thank Greenalink for giving me this opportunity, as I'm just going to say, this man is actually the very reason why I picked up Gunvolt speedrunning. I remember watching his run with his race with a Jarmar at Awesome Games Done Quick, and this really gave me sort of a really good impression of just how fast these things can go and just how fun it can be. I always loved Inti Creates' works, and even when I played Gunvolt casually, seeing the zenith of what Gunvolt speedrunning was like made me knew I wanted to do it too, and I thank you, man, for having me on commentary, truly.
Trust me, Tempest did a really good job on commentary, because you probably know what I'm like when trying to commentate and play games fast during the past two runs. I mean, probably made a mistake or two, but Tempest did a really, really good job for this one.
Thanks, man.
And thank you very much, ESA, for allowing this backup run to be accepted. I hope I did my very best to entertain everyone, including you viewers on chat right now.
If you want to join the Gunvolt speedrunning community, we do have a Discord page which has a link available within any of the leaderboards, and we love having new people come in. We're not afraid to teach you the ropes, and we're also just a general Gunvolt enjoying community as well. So no need to worry if you're more of a casual person just wanting to talk Gunvolt and all that jazz. Before we go, do we have a couple of donations that we could read?
Anonymous donated $5. Azure Striker? I hardly know her.
What else?
Sir Reuven donated $15. Hi Greenalink and Tempest, thanks for presenting this awesome run for us. Azure Striker Gunvolt looks very pretty and all this movement makes me want to try this, too. Good luck on the rest, and this goes towards saving Gunvolt at the end.
I think that's the very donation that saved him, so thank you, sir. We appreciate that. All right, with that, let's move on. Thanks, everybody, and until next time, ciao, amici.